he hitchhiked from New York City all the way to Hollywood. He was an extra on a production, and a famous director was like, "That guy has the look I've been looking for," and that's how he landed his big role.
In the 1920s, your great uncle was one of the best known movie stars. And now 100 years later, you have a publication that has its own TV channel. Do you sometimes think of your work as almost kind of paying tribute or manifesting the creative, artistic background of your family?
You know, no one's ever brought that up. I think I mentioned that on Instagram, didn't I? Right? Yeah. So my great uncle James Murray was, for a period of time, one of the most famous Hollywood actors in the world, and he started in the silent film era. And he was a relatively unknown actor in the beginning, who got a big role in a film called The Crowd. Came out in the year 1928. And it turned him into this huge success, and he was in demand for like every single movie. And he went from this so weird to be talking about, but he went from the silent film era into the what's known as the talkie era, where they actually had words and sounds and music. And it's very, very strange. I've seen some of his movies, not every single one, but I've seen some of his movies, and I've read a lot about him. People he worked with and stuff like that, family members. It's an interesting thing to try to get into his character, right? And if there's any semblance of that in me, right? We're talking about a great uncle. Right. It's close, but not like, it's not like my brother. You know what I mean?
Did anybody else in your family, was anybody else involved in show business?
So his brother, so my other great uncle was named Harry, and he was I don't know if you would call him famous, but he was a Broadway star. He was in a group called the Debonaires, and he danced on Broadway for a long time. And their father, my great grandfather, was actually a freelance writer, and did that for like 40 years. And so you have this this writing background, right, that goes all the way back into the family, and then you sort of have this this Hollywood media creative side of the family. And I don't know that I would say paying tribute, because when I started all this, I didn't really know all of that. I really only kind of came to learn more about it and appreciate it just in the last few years. And I did start to see some of the similarities in our lives. It's interesting to have kind of gone through a life progression and then later learn that you had relatives, ancestors that kind of did the same thing. Mm-hmm. It's kind of freaky. And
it makes sense a little bit as well, right?
It makes sense, because you're like, why am I like the way that I am, right? Yeah. And both of those great uncles, they dropped out of high school to do what they wanted to do, right? So they were very passionate, and they were risk takers,
and they made bold moves.
And they made bold moves, and they grew up in a household where an education was very, very valuable. They felt very strongly in their abilities. Mm-hmm. And it paid dividends. One of them became one of the most famous movie stars in the world, right? He hitchhiked from New York City all the way to Hollywood. He was an extra on a production, and a famous director was like, "That guy has the look I've been looking for," and that's how he landed his big role. You know what I mean? So if he hadn't done that, and he was sleeping on people's couches, right? He didn't have any type of stable work, and look how it worked out for him.
Incredible.